My name's David Kellett and I'm the Deputy Chair of the Race Committee for the Rolex Sydney to Hobart Yacht Race this year. Following the Rolex Sydney to Hobart Yacht Race in 2024, a report recommended that we create a recorded and widely disseminated communications seminar in the lead up to the next race. The contents are to assist in understanding and gaining confidence in the satellite communications-based framework, to outline the sourcing of weather and emergency services that are available, and understand the VHF communications techniques that are required in managing the on-scene aspects of the emergency situations. Having competed in 26 races and been responsible for the HF radio skeds for 22 races, I'm very aware of what is required for the Rolex Sydney to Hobart Yacht Race. In this recording, we'll outline available technologies and their strengths, outline sources of weather information via satellite, highlight emergency services available via satellite, provide an overview of VHF communication practices that are applicable in incidents and emergency situations, and outline the current communication structure for the Rolex Sydney to Hobart Yacht Race and what the organising authority has in place. I'd now like to introduce Lincoln Dews to discuss available satellite technologies. Lincoln is a navigator and double-handed competitor in the 2025 Rolex Sydney to Hobart Yacht Race aboard Toucan. He's worked in AMOCAs and other racing programs globally in their electronic and communication setup. Over to Lincoln.
So satellite communications have really expanded over the last couple of years. Historically, for a long time now, we've had the Iridium network, which is quite stable, but recently we've ended up with the networks such as Starlink, and there's a few more coming online in the coming years. So what that means for offshore racing and for people who spend time in remote environments is there's suddenly a lot more connectivity to the outside world, which for safety, among other things, is a massive boost. Currently, there's two main networks that are being used in offshore racing, the Iridium network and the Starlink constellation. So the Iridium network is primarily used for safety purposes nowadays. Think of it, it's kind of a low band frequency, which means it's a lot more resilient, especially in adverse weather. So if you're looking at using a device for safety to get out messages that have to be get out, or receive messages or phone calls, an Iridium network will work a lot better in storms, in cloudy or foggy environments, especially with sea spray and boats moving up and down as well. The second obvious choice at the moment is the Starlink network. And this is more of a high band frequency. It's used to send and receive lots of data in real time. With that, however, it comes a risk of not working when the boat's getting thrown around, when you're in a storm, etc. So this day and age, you want to try and use a bit of a mixture between the two, depending on your purposes. When we're talking about the Iridium network, we're referring to phones like a traditional Iridium satellite phone, Iridium InReach from Garmin, Iridium Go, or Iridium Go Exec, which is essentially an Iridium Go with a few more capabilities such as the WhatsApp and better email communication. It's important to also note that the Iridium network is what's linked to your PLBs, your EPIRBs, any kind of safety devices that we carry nowadays all rely on the Iridium network. So it is considered a very standard, very reliable network. The Starlink network is a lot newer, and it brings a huge amount of connectivity to the racing fleet, especially in terms of getting real-time information, real-time weather forecasts and satellite imagery at a very, very high resolution. So typically we would try and use a Starlink connection to try and download anything such as weather, boat positions, real-time communications if it's available. But it is important to know that the Starlink network isn't perfect, and especially in rough environments and unforgiving environments, it is a possibility it drops out. And especially too, it requires a lot more power from your batteries or the boat, whereas an Iridium unit will often work on its own battery for days at a time. So satellite communications is always evolving over time, and particularly these last few years. The Starlink and the Iridium networks both have their pros and cons, and will again develop in the years to come, and it's important to understand why you would use each one and what capabilities each one possess. So nowadays, with the added connectivity of the Starlink and networks, and even the extension of the 4G network, suddenly there's a massive amount of weather services available when you're racing offshore. And the rules are very caught up with this, and nowadays you're allowed to download weather from any freely available source while you're racing. Couple that with the massive improvements with grid files and weather forecasts, it's very easy to get an accurate understanding and image of the weather conditions you're going to face in a Hobart race, for example. When we're talking about weather services, it's important to understand where your forecast comes from and who's developing the forecast. There is sites like Predict Wind, Windy, Squid. A lot of these sites are weather providers, and that means that they get their weather forecasts from other places, and they will provide the service. They'll provide the package or a viewable package for you in terms of a grid file or a visual image. When we are looking for forecasts offshore, it's very important to understand if a forecast is coming from a provider and where it's coming from, or if it's coming from an official governing body like the Bureau of Meteorology here in Australia, for example. And that's important when it comes to gale force warnings, storm warnings, and generally kind of that high risk case scenario. So while you're looking at different sources, it's very, very important to kind of rely on the trusted and the governing bodies for kind of storm forecasts. This day and age too, we get a lot of good information from satellite imagery, and again with Starlink and other satellite communications, it's very easy to download the radar images, the satellite images, and get a good overall picture of what's going on. Something that's also underrated is remembering that the Channel 16 VHF forecasts are still available, and those times will be noted in the sailing instructions of the race.
The report recommends that we understand the VHF communication techniques that are required in managing the on-scene aspects of an emergency situation. As you're aware, the VHF system is a short-range system, so it's only for yachts in the immediate vicinity that can communicate with you. If you have an emergency situation, broadcast on VHF 16, and you will receive an answer if there are yachts within the VHF range. If not, use the satellite telephone system to contact race control. Once you establish contact with vessels on VHF in an emergency situation, one should take control of the traffic to control. There will be many people trying to assist, but one should be the leader, otherwise we get too much assistance. The race control is there to assist if the vessel in distress is having difficulty raising race control. Those in support may be able to relay through to race control of the emergency situation and keep us posted. Race communication protocols are another item that we need to discuss. The Cruising Yacht Club of Australia works with a company called Synergy, and their product Twilio manage satellite communications. The system works in two parts. The position reporting system is sent via SMS. These positions are collated online by their system, and race control will return an email to you, a collated file of all positions approximately 1 hour after the position reporting time. This document, along with the weather, may also be posted on the race website. You may receive a confirmation of your position. However, we have experienced some delay and certain numbers not being activated by the automated system. Be assured that race control will contact you directly should we not receive your position at any sked. If you do not hear from us, your position will have been received. The second point refers to you telephoning the race control. The system acts like a call centre where if one of the race control operators is occupied on a call, it will automatically go to the next phone. Your call will be answered by one of the personnel in race control immediately. Finally, the communications protocols will, as usual, be available in the sailing instructions, which will be issued next week. Thank you.